You were good. You just need more of the same. All right. Nathy? What a neat woman. When we first spoke to her about our program, she cried. She felt so mourning for not having that opportunity in America. She couldn't imagine the fact that the time was right, and she so looked forward to the future of it. The way she worked with the children was so expert. She can really draw the best from the kids. We had kids in her workshop from the age 7 to 55, and she knew how to work with each and every one of them. She included each of them in her workshop. And so they will all, in turn, do better ASL stories. Come on, are you ready? Come on. Who's ready? I'm here because you're making me get up here, so here I am. I got to think of a story. Okay. Timber. The supervisor gave a list of the trees to be cut to the lumberjack. And the lumberjack looked at his list and said, okay, this is the next tree to cut. And with his axe, he started to make a wedge in the tree. And the tree began to shudder. And the boy yelled, timber. Can you tell us what makes a good ASL story? A good ASL story must be produced in ASL. You have to have a signing space, such as I'm demonstrating. Don't sign very, very small. Make your signing space quite large. Don't use a high degree of fingerspelling. Try to lessen that to proper names, places, things of that nature. Perhaps a brand name. You need to be very, very clear when you're describing the characters in terms of what they look like. Hair color, style, what the facial features are, the type of dress that's being worn. Is it a dress, in fact? And if you're shifting roles, then you need to make that very clearly marked as to who is speaking at the time. You can do that in a number of different ways, such as a body shift, or by facial expression changes. You can use two hands if you like. For example, one character came by and another character came by, and they looked at each other and they nodded to each other. Or you could just do it with one hand and then another hand. You can do it in symmetry form or not. Eye gaze as well is very, very important. If I'm a tall person speaking to a child, I need to watch where my eye gaze are. Similarly, if it's a child talking to an adult, you need to shift your eye gaze upward. If someone walks by, you'll need to track that. If someone is in the distance, you need to show perspective with your eyes by squinting. If someone is up close, of course you'll want to widen your eyes. The signing needs to be extremely clear. We don't want anything sloppy and soft. And you need to sign in a sedate fashion. You need to pace yourself very well, not too slow and not too fast, but just to have a proper cadence of speech. In terms of rhythm, you might want to incorporate that, as in 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You might produce that in the way you're walking. As I've just demonstrated. So generally we would use the rhythm of 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. If you shift to the role of narrator, you need to have eye contact with your audience. You may do that to explain the role of a particular character, or if there's a sign or a word that's not particularly known, you might want to make your audience aware of that before you continue with your story so they know what you're talking about. In terms of space, you need to set that up properly so that you know where all the characters are. It's good if you can become the character and then become the narrator, but you need to watch that you make that transition very smoothly. You don't want to make it an abrupt pause. You need to be able to move between one and the other very readily. I'll give you an example of a beetle. That's the sign I use for beetle. An ant met a beetle and said, "Hello, how are you?" And the beetle said, "I'm fine." The beetle tends to be a mischievous troublemaker, teasing sort of lot, but the ant is unaware of this. "Would you mind giving me a hand?" "Oh, why, certainly I will." Wink, wink. "Certainly, I'll be glad to help you out." "Oh, thank you so much." Now, did you see how I transitioned between the characters? I became the characters in the story, and then I reverted to the other character, and then a narrator. There's a fine line that needs to be worn. You don't say, "Okay, now I'm being the narrator. Let's watch." I move smoothly between the transitions. If you're talking about an animal or a rock or a tree, it doesn't really matter. You need to make it become alive. You need to use personification. As an example, I could be a tree. Do you see how I'm blowing in the wind? I can also do it this way. I'm in the state of personification. I am the tree. The wind is blowing and blowing so strongly at me, or the wind is blowing through the leaves of the tree. And at the end of the story, you don't say, "the end." You can freeze yourself, bring your hands together, but you don't say, "the end," please. You don't do that. So those are the things that make